Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the world is literally tearing itself apart. Oceans are swallowing cities. The ground is splitting open like paper, and people are running for their lives as the sky burns. No, this isn't a dream. This is 2012, one of the craziest, most intense disaster movies ever made. It's the story of how a regular family fights to survive when the entire Earth starts collapsing, continents shift, mega tsunamis crash, and humanity faces extinction. Stay tuned, because we're about to relive one of the most thrilling apocalypse movies ever. And trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Welcome to Real Movie Breakdown. Let's dive straight into the chaos of 2012. The movie begins in 2009, deep in an Indian copper mine. A geologist named Satnam Suratani notices something terrifying. The sun is blasting Earth with solar radiation, heating up the planet's core. He immediately calls his friend, Dr. Adrian Helmsley, an American scientist working for the U.S. government. When Adrian arrives, he sees the impossible. The Earth's core is boiling. The temperature is rising way faster than ever before. It's like the Earth itself is cooking from the inside. Adrian rushes to Washington, D.C. to warn the White House Chief of Staff, Karl Anheuser, and the President, Thomas Wilson. He tells them that within just a few years, the planet's crust will destabilize, meaning massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and total global destruction. The government knows this is the biggest crisis in human history, but instead of telling the public, they quietly start Project Genesis, a secret plan to save humanity. And this plan involves building gigantic arks, massive ships that could survive the flood of all floods. Fast forward to 2012. We meet our main character, Jackson Curtis, a struggling writer who works as a limo driver in Los Angeles. He's divorced. His ex-wife Kate lives with her new boyfriend Gordon, and Jackson barely gets time with his two kids, Noah and Lily. One weekend, Jackson plans a camping trip with his kids to Yellowstone National Park. But when they get there, things are weird. The lake they used to visit is gone, completely dried up, and the area is swarming with military guards. Jackson and the kids sneak around and bump into a wild, conspiracy-loving radio host named Charlie Frost. Charlie broadcasts from his camper van and tells everyone about a government cover-up, that the world is ending in 2012, and the elites are building arks in China to survive. He even has maps showing where the arks are being built. Jackson laughs it off, but Charlie insists. The Mayans predicted it, man. It's all going down. Little does Jackson know, Charlie is 100% right. Back in Los Angeles, small earthquakes start shaking the city. Adrian Helmsley warns the president that the timeline has collapsed. The disasters are happening much earlier than expected, and soon chaos begins. Massive quakes hit the West Coast, buildings crumble, and the ground splits open like paper. Jackson realizes Charlie wasn't crazy at all. The end of the world is truly here. He races to his ex-wife's house, grabs his family, and tries to escape. They jump into his limousine just as the ground begins collapsing beneath them. This scene is insane. The city literally sinks behind them as Jackson drives at full speed through falling, skyscrapers, exploding highways, and collapsing streets. It's one of the most iconic disaster scenes ever made. They barely make it to the airport, where Gordon, who's a pilot, takes control of a small plane. As they take off, Los Angeles falls apart behind them in a massive earthquake, with entire neighborhoods sliding into the Pacific Ocean. They've escaped one disaster, but this is just the beginning. Adrian Helmsley tries to warn everyone, but the truth is, there's no stopping it. Earthquakes hit every continent. Volcanoes erupt across the planet. And the government's evacuation plan is already underway. Billionaires and world leaders are secretly being transported to China, where those massive arks are almost ready. Only a few people know about it. Everyone else is left to die. Meanwhile, Jackson's group flies to Yellowstone to find Charlie Frost, hoping he still has that map to the arks. But when they find him, Yellowstone is erupting. The supervolcano has blown up. Charlie stays behind to document the end, while Jackson and his family barely escape again, flying through the smoke and fire of a volcanic explosion. In Charlie's camper, Jackson finds the crucial map. It shows the exact location of the arks in the Himalayas. Their only hope now is to get there before the world completely ends. They fly across a collapsing planet, from Las Vegas to Hawaii, and finally to China, each place worse than the last. The Earth's crust keeps shifting, and giant tsunamis are forming. In Las Vegas, Jackson's group meets Yuri Karpov, a Russian billionaire who also bought tickets for the arks. He's got two sons, a girlfriend, and a private plane. They all team up to reach China since Yuri's plane can make the long flight. But as they fly over the Pacific, they see it. The entire world is burning. Volcanoes are erupting, cities are drowning, and the planet looks like it's breaking in half. The pilots barely manage to keep the plane airborne as they spot a gigantic wave approaching the coast of China. The government's Project Genesis is now in full motion. Only those who paid billions of euros, the richest and most powerful people, are allowed on board. Ordinary people have no idea what's happening. The arks are hidden deep in the Tibet mountains, built to survive tsunamis, earthquakes, and even the polar shift. They can hold hundreds of thousands of people, but space is limited. Jackson and his family's plane crashes in the Himalayas, miles away from the arks. They're found by a kind-hearted Tibetan monk, Nima, who works at the construction site. Nima decides to help them, even though it's forbidden. Meanwhile, President Wilson stays behind in Washington. He refuses to save himself, saying a true leader goes down with his people. Moments later, a massive tsunami slams the East Coast. The president is killed, and the entire U.S. government collapses. The survivors around the world, including Adrian Helmsley and Carl Anhuiza, make it to the arks in time. But when Adrian realizes how unfair this plan is, he's furious. He argues that saving only the rich goes against everything humanity stands for. He convinces the world leaders to open the gates for everyone nearby, letting in thousands of refugees. Jackson's family sneaks onto Ark 4, but a huge wave triggered by a collapsing glacier hits early. The doors malfunction, and water floods in while the giant ship gets stuck between mountains. Inside, chaos erupts, alarms blaring, people panicking, water rushing in. Jackson, being the hero, dives deep inside the flooding ship to manually release the hydraulic gate. He fights through rising water, trapped machinery, and zero visibility. It's one of the tensest moments in the movie. At the very last second, he pulls the lever, the gate releases, and the ark stabilizes, saving everyone aboard. Exhausted and barely alive, Jackson reunites with Kate and their kids as the water calms outside. Weeks later, the storm is over. The surviving arks sail across a quiet ocean where mountains rise from the sea. Adrian and the world leaders gather on deck as they realize Africa has risen again from the ocean. Now the highest continent on Earth, humanity has one last chance to start over. Jackson's son Noah looks out at the sunrise and says, "Dad, there's no more secret." For the first time in the movie, there's hope. Humanity will rebuild, not from greed or power, but together. And that's the story of 2012, The Ultimate End of the World. Survival film where a dad, a scientist, and the whole planet fight for one last breath of hope. From heart-pounding destruction to emotional reunions, 2012 isn't just about disaster. It's about humanity's will to survive, even when everything crumbles. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more epic movie stories like this, subscribe to my channel, Real Movie Breakdown, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another cinematic thrill.